Okay, first we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll turn that over to Danica Larson, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the roll call will reflect that all board members and all cabinet members are present, either in person or virtually. And now we will have the student board member oath of office. I'll turn that over to Superintendent Bailey.
Thank you very much, President Griffith. It's my distinct pleasure to swear in yet another student for service on the board this evening. This evening, I'd like for you to meet Danica Larson from Palm Desert High School, and her parents, I understand, are in the audience. Mindy and Michael, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Front row seats. Let's find out a little bit about Danica. Are you ready, Danica? Okay. So Danica has attended Washington Charter School, Palm Desert Charter Middle School, Palm Desert High School, currently in Aztec. I see Mr. Zink's here in the office, and we're very glad to see you back. Thank you. The highlights of her educational experience thus far, she's had some really great teachers and made some amazing friends. Her hobbies and interests include cheerleading and hanging out with friends and family. Her leadership experience in school and/or the community includes ASB and cheer captain. Her volunteer experience in school and/or community includes ASB and National Charity League. And my favorite question, please share an interesting or unique fact about yourself. To which Danica replies, I love animals and I am vegetarian. I also love to participate in human rights causes. Danica, if you will join me down front, and feel free to bring your cheat sheet, I'll get you sworn in officially.
Danica, would you like to introduce anybody special here this evening with you?
My father, Michael Larson, my mom, Mindy Larson, my best friend, Lane Thiel, and then my ASB director, Coach K, Christopher Kulian, and then my principal, Mr. Zink.
Welcome. Okay, now we'll move on to approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of December 15th, 2020? By Tricia Pierce. Is there a second?
Second, Linda Porras.
Seconded by Linda Porras. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, call for the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That carries 5-0. Board meeting addenda. Mr. Bailey, is there any changes to the agenda? No. Is there a motion to approve the agenda of the regular meeting of January 12th, 2021?
So moved, Anna Conover.
Moved by Anna Conover. Is there a second?
Second, Wendy Jonathan.
Seconded by Wendy Jonathan. All those in, or no discussion. All those in favor say, or scratch that. Preferential vote? Danica, preferential vote? Aye? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries 6-0. Community staff student recognition. Mr. Bailey.
Second part of the agenda that's my favorite this evening would be community staff student recognition. I'll invite Mrs. Mary Perry up, our public information officer, to share the great news. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I feel like a beekeeper. Anyway, here we go. So let me begin by giving a shout out to my fellow Desert Sands Education Foundation board members and the CAMFest Live Committee. As you know, the world situation caused the cancellation of the 4th annual CAMFest that was supposed to be held in December at the Indian Wells Tennis Garden. The foundation board actually had voted to not have the event, but our committee, led by Christy Beasley, didn't want any part of canceling it. And so they came up with a plan, and we celebrated our schools and our student artists 7 evenings in a row with short videos, and we're able to raise over $21,000. So I'm going to read the list, and if you could just hold your applause to the end and join me in recognizing this amazing team who raised supplemental art funds. It's kind of weird to be talking about yourself, you know? Anyway, raised supplemental art funds for our classrooms. So Christy Beasley, Patrick Callison, Kathy Doyle, James East, Miles East, Mary Brett Goodwin, Mary Schmidt-Krebs, Gary Lopez, Robert Mejia, Robert Bucciarelli, Stuart Smith, Karina LJ, Virginia Bauer, Irene Creighton, Alma Ochoa, Sophia Perone, Mimi Romero, Sandy Hersey, Angela Cabayog, Mary Trimmons, Stefan Pajovic, Kathleen Doyle, Mary Perry, and Sean Webb. So thank you to that committee. You can applaud now. So 4 of our team, our technology project facilitators, were recently recognized by Aludo. Aludo is the district's partner in online, anytime, anywhere training. They've noted in recognizing the amazing contributions of this team to the ongoing professional development that they provide to our teachers. As Dr. Kelly Mae Vollmer said, during the pandemic, this group of superheroes has worked to provide high-quality training to all teachers in DSUSD on multiple platforms. They have also designed training for students and families. So please join me in congratulating Sally Adams, Katie Eklund, Cindy Furr, and Caitlin Hubbard. And I want to add some other congratulations. 3 of our DSUS teachers have been named Teachers of the Year by the Bill Huntington Post 3600 of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. The awards will actually be given out in the spring, but the teachers being recognized are Alexandra Zanovich from Lyndon B. Johnson Elementary School, Andrew Smith from Shadow Hills High School, and Bonnie Van Brunt from Abraham Lincoln Elementary School. Another Teacher of the Year recognition has been made by the Daughters of the American Revolution Korea chapter to Amy Oberman from Indio High as an outstanding teacher of American history. So yay to our 4 teachers. And it's always exciting to recognize our students. So tonight I want to ask you to join me in congratulating an Indio High School senior who has been named a 2020-2021 Rural Small Town Scholar by the College Board National Recognition Program, and that student is Kushi Patel. My final recognition is to Abraham Lincoln Elementary School for joining the list of Common Sense schools. Okay. I'm also here representing Director of Community Engagement and Foundation Sean Webb, who is behind the scenes doing technical work for this evening's meeting. And he asked me to pass along that there were 140 nominations in December for our Employee Recognition Program, IT Incredibly Talented. Of those 140, 2 names were drawn to receive a gift. Normally, we've been giving restaurant certificates, but we can't do that right now. So Sean worked with the CV Harvest program, and they have donated boxes of produce, Coachella Valley local produce. So now you have to cook your meal. The boxes also include soap made by the culinary students at La Quinta High School, which is very cool. So the winners were Michelle Clark, a teacher at Gerald Ford Elementary School, and Clark Chor, a teacher at Thomas Jefferson Middle School. So while my regular announcements are complete, I would like to ask all of you to join me in congratulating our board members, as it's January is California School Board Month. So I represent the staff of Desert Sands when I say thank you to our trustees for your diligence and your commitment. But it's not only the staff who want to recognize you, so Rob, hit it.
On behalf of the City of Indian Wells and the Indian Wells City Council, we appreciate the Desert Sands School Board.
Hi, I'm Mayor Elaine Holmes, and the City of Indio would like to recognize those who have served the city during School Board Recognition Month. Board members Anna Conover and Linda Porras and Angela Torres and Sergio Casarubia sitting on the Shadow Hills High School and Indio High School boards. In recognition of California School Board Month, I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate our school board members and the work that they do at Desert Sands Unified School District. The City of La Quinta and its council members and staff enjoy a wonderful relationship with not only the school board members of Desert Sands Unified School District, but also the teachers and administrators. Formulating the educational future for our children not only takes our teachers and our administrators and the parents, but also it's the direction of our school board members. We understand the work ethic involved and the time and commitment. In our designated area, Tricia Pierce was recently elected for our school board representation. We applaud all of you for the work that you're doing and congratulate you and recognize you during School Board Month.
Desert thanks you for the critical role you play in the education of our youth, so key to unlocking their potential. We deeply appreciate what you do to improve individual lives and our collective well-being.
On behalf of the City of Indian Wells and the Indian Wells City Council, we appreciate the Desert Sands School Board.
Hi, I'm Mayor Elaine Holmes, and the City of Indio would...
I guess you're getting recognized twice. But if you would all join me in a round of applause for our board members. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to the introduction of recently promoted employees. Mr. Bailey?
Actually, I have Dr. Salazar, Assistant Superintendent Personnel Services, do the honors.
I have 2 individuals I'd like to introduce tonight. The first one is Mr. Rubin Garza. Rubin, come on up to the podium, please. Mr. Garza is our new Manager of Computer Network Services. And I'll tell you a little bit about his background. Mr. Garza earned his bachelor's degree in the field of Business Information Technology Management from Western Governors University, and in addition, he has earned many other certificates in the technology field for leading IT solutions. Mr. Garza has over 20 years of experience in information technology and has provided technology support to law enforcement, healthcare, and K-12 educational organizations. Originally from Central California, Mr. Garza relocated to the Coachella Valley after marrying his wife, a Desert Sands teacher, in 1999. Mr. Garza began his career in the desert at the Riverside County District Attorney's Office in Indio. In 2001, he came to work at Desert Sands, and after 12 years of providing outstanding support to the district as a network specialist enterprise, he went to work at Eisenhower Medical Center and has just now returned to lead our Computer Network Services Department. Mr. Garza and his wife have 2 sons. He enjoys spending time with his family, hiking, and traveling. I bet you're not doing too much of that right now. It's something to look forward to. He has stated that he is honored to once again be a part of the great team here at Desert Sands and looks forward to working alongside his colleagues to help maintain a superior learning environment for our students and a positive technological experience for our employees. Congratulations on your new appointment, Mr. Garza. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be back after being absent for 7 years. I haven't stopped smiling since I got here, but you can't tell the mask. But I'm very excited, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve our students, our teachers, and administrators. And just can't stop smiling.
Okay, well, we're
Excited.
very,
Thank you.
very happy to have you, and I've heard just in the few weeks you've been here, so many good reports.
Thank you.
And I know we have limited seating. I don't know if you were able to bring anyone with you tonight that you want to introduce?
No, but they're watching
Okay.
online, so thank you, my wife and kids.
All right, well, congratulations again. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce our new principal from at Summit Horizon, Dr. Jose Ramirez. Dr. Ramirez, you want to come on up to the podium so you can stand there while I talk about you? Stand awkwardly. Dr. Jose Ramirez is very pleased to become a part of Summit Horizon community and serve as the principal there in our district. Dr. Ramirez grew up in Coachella, California, with a single mother who was deeply vested in education. He attended College of the Desert and then UC Riverside for his undergraduate work and holds a doctoral degree from the University of Laverne in organizational leadership. Dr. Ramirez began his teaching career 18 years ago for the Coachella Valley Unified School District at CV High School and then joined the Desert Sands family in 2014. His roles here have included teaching English language development, English literature, Spanish, digital arts, photography, working as an instructional coach, a middle school facilitator, and a high school assistant principal. Dr. Ramirez's career interests are establishing and supporting professional learning communities, instructional leadership, human resources, are you sure about that? And school reform. When he's not working, Jose enjoys his time with his family, building Lego sets with his 6-year-old son, or singing Baby Shark with his 3-year-old daughter, and enjoying a cup of coffee with his better half. We're really happy to have you as a new principal at Summit Horizon, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And I just want to take this opportunity to thank you, and I'm grateful for you providing me this opportunity to lead Summit and Horizon. They're two very important sites to our district. And I'm going to guarantee you that I'm going to challenge them, I'm going to support them, and I'm going to ensure that they're safe. And I'm talking about the students and the staff. So that is my responsibility. I do take it seriously, and I am committed to the district and the students. So again, thank you very much, and you're welcome to visit the site at any time. Thank you.
Just on behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome you back and congratulate you on your promotion. We hope to have a great atmosphere at Desert Sands Unified School District, and we want to support you in any way that we can to let you do the outstanding jobs I know you want to do. So welcome back and congratulations. Now we'll move on to the next information items. We have 4. We have the Williams Quarterly Report. We have our volunteers list. We have our Head Start program report for November, and we have the District English Language Learner Advisory Committee. There are no staff conference items. There are no public hearings, so we will move on to discussion. Mr. Bailey.
Yes, sir. I think we're at 15-1?
Yes.
All right. This is a standing item that Cabinet and I had pledged to the board regarding our response to the COVID pandemic and what that means for the return to in-person learning. As you know, we're subject to the prevailing public health guidelines in making decisions to bring students back. So I did actually prepare notes because this tends to be complicated if it's not written in a clear form, so bear with me. So first, I want to take us back in history. Our board was very ambitious in putting a target date. I believe it was the October 20th board meeting date on a return to in-person learning January 19th. 2021, which seemed a long way away at that time, but that's where we are this evening, is revisiting your target date of January 19. During that October 20th board meeting, the board took action, A, to start athletic conditioning effective immediately, and it was on a voluntary basis. The second action the board took on October 20th was a start date for small group services on a voluntary basis for students with acute needs beginning November 9th, 2020. The third action was to anticipate a start date of January 19, 2021 for elementary, middle, and high school, subject to the prevailing public health guidance at that time. And again, at that time is now. So we need to go back and look at the current public health metrics, which guide us into opportunities to open for in-person learning. And before I get into the public health metrics, I want to emphasize that we very much want students to be re-engaged with their teachers in a physical school building as soon as it is safe to do so. There's no question about that. As January 19th is only 1 week away now, we find ourselves assessing the current public health guidelines to determine if we meet the required case rate metrics in order to have that option at our disposal. As you may recall, under the state's blueprint for a safer economy, which I look at on a daily basis, school districts were required to be at a COVID-19 case rate per 100,000 residents of 7.0 or less. We know that is the red tier. We remain in a deep purple state, unfortunately. But 7.0 under those metrics is what it would have taken for us to open under the original plan in order to provide in-person learning. Unfortunately, our case rates continue to rise. In fact, today it was updated again. If you go to the Blueprint for Safer Economy website, you can click on the county data. It also shows you state data. All county data is available for that matter. And if you click on Riverside County, you'll see that per 100,000 residents in our county, our current case rate adjusted is 107.2. So let's go back to the original 7.0 required to be in the red tier to have the option to open in our state. We're currently at 107.2. Again, we need to be at 7 or less. Thus, I'm sure everyone up here is disappointed that January 19th opportunity is not availed to us under those metrics. That's very clear. But I do see some additional opportunities for us that I'd like to inform the public and the board. You've seen this in the news, but I'll try and give you a summary, a high-level summary this evening of this potential opportunity coming. And it was a plan that was tethered to the governor's budget that he submitted most recent to the legislators. It's called the Safe Schools for All plan. And again, it's directly affiliated with the budget that funds schools. The plan is based on 4 components, and it's a proposed plan. First is funding, so there's an incentive to school districts that would apply through distinct windows to come back to in-person learning sooner than later. It has a safety and mitigation requirement, would require testing of students and staff. It would require a safety plan submitted to the county and approved, additional PPE. It also includes oversight and assistance from the state in transparent accountability and clearly posting all the active COVID cases in school districts on a statewide basis. Again, I can't underscore enough that this is all proposed right now. You know as well as I, having watched many years of legislative sessions, what goes in the session isn't necessarily what comes out of the session. There's a lot of debate that occurs. The legislators just reported yesterday. So this is very, very new. And honestly, we don't have a lot of detail. We have more questions than detail at this moment. But it could open yet another opportunity. As the session began just this week, we're closely monitoring the process for forthcoming details. In its current form, the proposed legislation speaks to incentives that may provide to districts that offer in-person learning, and it's a phased-in approach, again, in the proposed language. Districts would first offer in-person learning opportunities, we know that as a hybrid model, to TK through grade 2 as soon as February 15th if you qualify, followed by grades 3 through 6 if you qualify by March 15. The proposed plan currently does not speak to grades 7 through 12. There's no language to that extent currently. Now here's the kicker. Only districts and counties with case rates of less than 28 per 100,000 would qualify. And again, we're at 107.2 today, and we keep rising. So we will closely monitor to see how this legislation matures in the process. In a nutshell, under current public health metrics, we do not have the opportunity, unfortunately, to offer in-person learning as anticipated January 19th. We are closely monitoring the process, as stated. which will hopefully provide those additional opportunities as we move forward into February and March. Should this legislation mature quickly, which the governor has expressed his intent for it to be faster than slower, and should this come to us in detailed format of the requirements, and we have some actual decision-making points around this, I would propose to the board, if it does come to us in an expedited fashion, that we potentially consider a special meeting if this happens before our next regularly scheduled meeting. So at that point, we would have some decision-making metrics around our application for these grant funds to bring the kids back. Again, case rates 28 or lower is the qualifying factor per 100,000. And for the members of the audience, I've said this many times, but I post under Super Seconds on our website any information that comes to us that's matter of fact. Super Seconds indicates you can read it quickly and it's factual. So you would actually have a link there right now to the governor's proposed plan and language and the affiliated budget if you want to read it in detail for yourself under its current proposed form. At this point, I'd like to move to the cabinet members under their specific areas of responsibility to share information regarding our preparation. Obviously, we've been preparing for what we call game day, January 19th, that unfortunately has diminished in opportunity, but we can still share what we're doing, what we have done in order to prepare for that day. So I'd like to start first of all with our Assistant Superintendent for Business Services, Mr. Aquino, who's actually in the back of the room. He'll be approaching the podium, I believe. Mr. Aquino, the floor is yours.
Good evening, board. Thank you, Superintendent Bailey. Yesterday, we distributed 4 meals, 4 days worth of meals to students, and tomorrow we'll be doing 5, and that's to cover us through the Martin Luther King and then that following Tuesday. So an update to the community, we will resume normal schedule the following Wednesday. Also for our Food Services, Nutrition Services Department is being honored by the City of Indio as School Lunch Heroes for serving our community. This recognition for outstanding service is all due part to the effort of our director, Dan Capello, Marta, Letty, our site managers, Carlos Montiel, and our chef manager, Carlos Montiel, our chef manager, and Jonathan Reyes, our nutrition services warehouse lead, and all the staff that's been distributing meals at our school sites. They've been doing an excellent job. Our unduplicated pupil count, as you know, our unduplicated pupil count affects our school finances. This year, we've seen a significant drop in our unduplicated pupil count since families weren't submitting income verification forms or free and reduced lunch applications due to the circumstances this year. CDE saw that anomaly, allowed for an extension, and gave us the ability to seek that information through other methods, phone calls as an example. So this year, that was potentially meant about a $4.4 million deficit to us if we didn't make an effort to increase our count numbers that would ultimately affect our unduplicated pupil count. So the school sites, with the principal's leadership, they did an excellent job. They received 2,300 responses, and so we have earned back our $4.4 million in supplemental and concentration funds. And as Superintendent Bailey was mentioning, our preparation is not only for supplies, but things like this affect our finances, which affect our ability to purchase. For use of facilities, we are currently limited to essential government business. As an example, we offered for the voters registration, voters registrar's office this past election in November at Shadow Hills High School. We had at the old Amistad site COVID-19 testing. We are re-engaging with a facility use agreement with them again so that they will be reutilizing that site for COVID testing. We offer our parking lots for Fine Food Bank. They are at all our comprehensive high schools. We're able to work out an agreement with the YMCA to keep our students or their program isolated. We have that at Carter and now at the Adams site. Since we have school closures, the ability to access their facilities at other locations was a little bit more difficult. So we were able to provide some assistance to the YMCA. They are now providing daycare services for our students over at the Adams Center. Also, the Riverside County Emergency Management Office has contacted us for the distribution of the vaccine. We are currently working with them for a facilities use agreement that potentially will start next week. We are still working with them on that, and they are looking to do approximately 500 vaccinations a day to first responders. And then we are hopefully going to work with them for a distribution for educators also at that same location. So and this will be at the La Quinta Hills High School. They have an auxiliary gym and an ability for traffic to make their way through the other side of the campus and not the front. With regard to PP&E, most of the elementary student desk shields were delivered, with the exception of Lincoln and Madison, which were delivered today. Oliphant, Roosevelt, and Truman are scheduled for this Thursday. We received all the air purification systems, the HEPA filters, people know them as, and the teacher desk shields in the warehouse. So we have all that in our inventory. However, getting them out to sites was a little bit difficult during this winter break, and it was a little bit more challenging since we intensified our effort to minimize staff and mitigate the spread of COVID. So right now we have about half of our elementary schools that have scheduled deliveries, and we are coordinating between the warehouse and our custodial for the installation over the next couple of weeks, the teacher desk shields and the HEPA filters. Our voice amplification systems that we purchased, I think they're around $900 a piece. We received all but 200, and our warehouse is working on tagging them before we deliver them to the school sites. All the customized masks that the schools have ordered are out and are on schedule for their normal delivery. We have daily deliveries that go out, and so the school sites will be receiving them at that time. Our secondary classrooms, we decided to purchase sanitizing wipes. Those are not disinfectants, and the dispensers for them, which we will be installing at all the secondary schools, and that will help with students transitioning in and out of classes. We've received those, and we aren't going to be installing those till we know when it's closer to students actually returning to campus. We will then bring them out at that time. We ordered a bunch of lunch tables to provide additional distancing for student meal consumption at school sites. The added benefit to that is we had a lot of aging tables. We are now going to be replacing those now once our distancing requirements are over with newer tables. So that's a good benefit to our schools. We will be getting those tables mid-February and early March. They will be delivered directly to the school sites. We are maintaining a supply of PP&E. I know that's a big question in our warehouse. And departments can order from our warehouse or externally whenever they need to. We have in hand 239,000 student fabric masks, 275,000 disposable student masks, 32,000 fabric adult face masks, 123,000 disposable adult masks, 7,000 face shields with drapes for teachers, gloves. A majority of these orders are housed in the warehouse for distribution, and these do not include some of the inventory that the staff has at the school sites. School sites can order, they have their own budgets, so they could receive whatever they want based on their available funding. We did supply staffs at the beginning of this year in August with 5 fabric masks. I know there was a concern about that brought up in the last meeting, and hand sanitizer. And we are providing another 5 fabric masks to finish out the rest of the year. So we made that promise in August. And now to get to half of the year, February is that timeline. We'll be providing there at that time. If staff has a damaged mask, let's say the thing is loose, there's a hole in it or whatever, they could work with their manager and get a replacement on that, or hand sanitizer. So that's my update, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Aquino. Now to Personnel Services, Dr. Salazar.
As reported at our last meeting, personnel continues to work with teachers and administrators to plan for our return to in-person instruction when we begin the hybrid model. Based on responses to the teaching model option survey from certificated employees, specific teaching assignments to distance and hybrid models are being finalized. And at this point, we are able to accommodate the teachers who did request distance assignments based on verified medical documentation of increased risk to themselves. I'm also looking forward to meeting with both of our employee associations in the near future to discuss the Governor's Safe Schools for All plan as soon as we receive more information and some of the details that are missing right now, which would help us focus on specific aspects of the plan that might require negotiation.
Thank you, Dr. Salazar. Now to Education Services Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Kelly May Vollmer.
Thank you. Good evening. So for our report as it pertains to reopening, we have been working on getting set up the large format displays that were purchased for each classroom across our district. We prioritized high school and middle school because of the necessity of those large format displays in the hybrid model that was proposed. So high school should be done by the end of this week. Middle school will be done next week, and we'll finish up elementaries after that. Some of the elementaries have already been done. In addition, as Dr. Salazar mentioned, in assigning students, some of the work that we did working with Dr. Salazar and I'm working with Mr. Aquino in the transportation department, we started looking at dividing students into A-B cohorts. And we started at the bus stops, and then from the bus stops looked out along the extent of a bus route, so that we could ensure that at the bus stop and along the route that we had a division of the students so they weren't clustered more on one day than on another day. And then from there, we looked at aligning those groups K-12 so that our younger students in elementary who rely on their older siblings for childcare during this time would be in the same cohorts and going to school on the same days so they could continue to support their families in that way. So that was a pretty big task. That work has been done, and I want to just give a huge shout out to Angie Vaca and Hector Banda, who worked long hours over the break to ensure that that was done. So that information was delivered to principals on Friday, and for the last 2 days, our elementary school principals have been working on taking that information and then recreating class lists, because as you will remember, in elementary school, we will have dedicated hybrid teachers and dedicated distance learning teachers. So students that are in the same environment as their current teacher will be able to retain that teacher, but some of the classes will have to be shuffled and moved so that students that chose distance learning are with a distance learning teacher, and that might not be their current teacher. So elementary school principals are working on that as we speak to get that ready. And in high school and middle school, there won't be a need to create new schedules, but really just to notify students who's on the hybrid A track and who's on the hybrid B track. In our current setting, as it pertains to credit recovery and academic concerns, I have some updates. One is around our high school students, letting you know that we have identified, we've been working with the principals, talking about this extensively. School counselors have also been working on this, identifying those students that are falling behind in A through G courses and assigning them into classes to get them caught up as quickly as possible. And our schools are being very creative in finding numerous ways to address this. Horizon, for example, and I want to thank Dr. Ramirez for his leadership in this endeavor, make sure to work with the high school principals of our comprehensive high schools today, letting them know about openings in sections for our 10th graders who'd failed the bulk of semester 1 that will be able to transfer, if they choose, to Horizon Opportunity and get caught up, not only completing their second semester of their sophomore year, but getting caught up on what they missed in the first semester so they're ready to enter back at their home school as juniors. Additionally, small group tutoring will be beginning again. If you remember, we offered small group tutoring at our high schools before the break. So we'll be bringing students back in that are in the greatest need and are in danger of failing. And we'll also next week be starting those same small group tutorings at our middle schools. And those are voluntary for teachers and they're voluntary for our students. Additionally, discussions are already underway for very extensive summer school offerings, and that's at all grade levels, elementary, middle, and high school. So we're working on that even right now. I wanted to also give the board just a review of some data that is available. As you might remember, Senate Bill 98 suspended the reporting of state and local indicators on the 2020 dashboard. However, the statute does require that available data that would have been indicated on the dashboard and are reported on the CDE DataQuest site need to be reported if they're determined valid and reliable. So what we currently know that available data to us is related to the 2020 cohort graduation rate. And I want to share some of that data with you. I think it's important to remember or to know that Riverside County retains the highest graduation rate of the 10 largest counties in California. So that makes that graduation cohort data very competitive because it's so high across the state. So some data points to consider are when you look at the 2020 cohort graduation rates, Desert Sands has a 98.8% cohort graduation rate. The county has a rate of 91.2, and the state has a rate of 87.6. 2020 cohort dropout rates, Desert Sands has a dropout rate of 5.1%. The county has a rate of 4.8, and the state has a rate of 7.0. 2020 A through G completion rates, Desert Sands ranking 4th in Riverside County, has a through G completion rate of 58.2%, with the county sitting at 51.2 and the state at 50.6. And for the 2020 State Seal of Biliteracy, Desert Sands ranking 2nd in the county of Riverside has a 15.2% rate, with the county at 9.3 and the state at 12.4. And then I briefly want to share just an update, as I've done each time, on CIF. And as you may remember, we anticipate getting even more updates. We're getting them pretty consistently, but there may be more information coming out in a bigger update on January 19th from CIF. However, you might remember that the California Department of Public Health issued their guidance for which activities are allowable under each colored tier of the state's reopening plan. And I went over that at the last board meeting. Some examples are that baseball is allowable in the red tier, and basketball and football are allowed in the orange tier. And this is direction from the Department of Public Health and followed by CIF. What's important to speak about tonight is that as a cabinet, we want you to know that we have been discussing and considering all possible ways that student athletes would get every chance possible this year to participate as it pertains to athletics. We have to adhere to the California Department of Public Health guidelines. However, within those guidelines, we know that we have the ability to be very creative for the sake of our athletes, and we're willing to do that to the greatest extent possible under public health guidelines. And that's my update for the evening.
Thank you, Dr. Vollmer. I appreciate and applaud all the work that's been done behind the scenes to match parent preference with staff preference. I know that's been extensive, but could you remind us all, by the survey data that drove those placements, was it a 40% preference for distance learning, or nearly 40%? From parents, as I recall.
I would have to look it up, Mr. Bailey. I'm sorry, I don't remember.
I'm pretty confident it was pretty close to a 60-40 split.
Yeah.
Parents that desired the actual online distance learning was about 40%, 38 to 40%, and then the balance obviously would be the hybrid.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then lastly, Assistant Superintendent for Student Support Services, Laura Fisher.
Thank you, and good evening. Even though Mr. Aquino touched on it, because I see this as the light at the end of the tunnel that's not a train, I'm going to touch again on the vaccines. The update from the county, currently, as you all well know, we're in phase 1A with the tiers 1 through 3 that they're currently vaccinating, which is our healthcare workers, even like dentists and people that they're seeing that could be possibly people that could work at the vaccine clinics and to be able to give the injections. But the next phase is phase 1B, which also has the 2 tiers, which under the tier 1 are persons that are 75 years or older and frontline essential workers, including education, law enforcement, food and agriculture, and emergency services. It's our firefighters and other emergency service personnel. So as Mr. Aquino was speaking, we are again partnering with Riverside County Public Health and utilizing some of our sites to finish off what they're vaccinating now with the first phase, and then be able to start phase 1B, which would be including education and the other personnel. So we're excited again to partner with the County Public Health to be able to provide the light with our vaccines. Another partnership that we were previously with and coming back with Public Health is a COVID testing site at our former Amistad school site. We had it there for a while. They had to move it. They're coming back starting January 18th. And they've been working with Mary Perry, our PIO, to get the public release and information out. So that will be another testing site for the community to use. And of course, our Desert Sands staff as needed. So they will take 165 appointments, any age, every day. And the appointment information registration will be online. I also wanted to update you a little on some of our COVID protocols. As Mr. Bailey was talking about, things can change daily, hourly. Along with the Governor Newsom's new plan, we also, January 1, had AB 685 that passed that ensured that districts were following the Cal OSHA guidelines, and so I needed to update our letter so we were in line with all the requirements. So when we notify our employees with a positive COVID, there are 3 letters that go out, and I think I've discussed them before, but the first letter that changed was the general notification letter, because Cal OSHA and AB 685 had different requirements that needed to be included in that letter. So that general notification letter goes out to all personnel, whether it's a school site or a department, in which had a positive COVID employee. The second letter is those people that were deemed as close contacts. So our lead nurse, our registered nurse, and her staff contacts the person that has the positive results, determines the close contact, which is spending a cumulative 15 minutes within 6 feet, either with or without face coverings, is the definition of a close contact. So that is determined, and those people receive individual notification as a close contact, and then are directed to quarantine, and we keep track of that time. And great collaboration with personnel, this process takes place. The third letter is a letter to the employee, and a phone call, of course, with the nurse when they're doing close contact tracing, that talks about resources and support as they hopefully quickly recover from COVID, and also the return to work criteria, which is no fever for 24 hours without any medication, substantial improvement of symptoms, and 10 days from their positive test. There is no requirement, and this is for anyone, not this district thing, this is CDPH and County Public Health. They don't recommend or require that a person go out and get another COVID test. Because once you've had COVID, you will probably remain positive for about 90 days, at least. So there's never a requirement to go back and shouldn't be a negative test in order to return to work or come out of isolation. To go on, and I know we've talked a little bit before about district cases, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the number of cases we've had in Desert Sands. Currently, we always look at 14 days, because that's what the county directs us to do to determine outbreaks, how many numbers you've had in the last 14 days. So for us, we've had 51 cases in the last 14 days. And as you know, we were carefully looking as the country and everyone was on Thanksgiving break and then Christmas break and New Year's Eve, and seeing the surge. And we had quite a surge, as you know, after Thanksgiving. And we're expecting the same type of surge, hopefully not, after the winter break holidays. So the 51 cases, fortunately for us, primarily the ones over winter break, people were at home. So we didn't have the close contacts and notifications that went out to the majority of staff. Some people were here, but the majority of cases in the last couple of weeks were over the break. Overall, since the spring, the district's had 237 positive cases in the district. Now, if you look at that, we've had 2,729 employees. So that's about 8.8% of the staff so far have tested positive since March, April in the springtime. We follow the guidelines. We report all cases to Riverside County Public Health. In a line item, the school lead nurse and her staff prepare those information line items with the contact tracing that we do. And then we're also soon going to be onboarding with what we call SPOT, which is the school portal for outbreak tracing through the California Department of Public Health. So all the information is reported and notified to staff and reported to the county. And they determine, when we get to a point of an outbreak. And we have not had numbers that justified an outbreak throughout the district since we started this in the spring. We touched on, Dr. May Vollmer touched on the intervention, but the other small cohorts we've been doing in the last few months have been with our students with moderate to severe disabilities. And we have 13 programs at 6 sites ranging from preschool to our adult transition program. We've had good attendance from students and staff, and after the winter break, we were wondering how that was going to look. We have had strong attendance. Only just a few across the board students did not return. So it was good to see the return of all the faces of our students who are love being in the classroom and staff. Our only program that hasn't started back up yet is the elementary site, who will start up on the 19th. So we're glad to see that strong attendance, and the plans are to open up more. As Dr. Mabel was speaking of the intervention groups, we are also going to open up more of the small cohorts for our students with disabilities. Right now, it's the moderate severe program, but into the mild mod program, so that students with disabilities that need that more of that in-person instruction would have that opportunity, along with the intervention groups that Dr. May Vollmer was referring to. So as we are trying to get from our 107.6 case rate down to a place where we can open, we will continue to increase the small cohort in-person instruction for students to be able to receive that support. We also, in the guidelines, are doing the surveillance testing. The small cohort in-person groups have begun that testing along with other pilot groups in partnership with Quest Diagnostic with a self-administered test kit that's mailed to their home. They follow the directions and drop it off at a FedEx, and we've all tried it, so we knew how it worked, and you get the results in about 48 hours. So it's very user-friendly, very timely. But as Mr. Bailey was talking about, we're looking at this plan, even though it's probably not all baked yet, but looking at what we need to have ready for Safe Schools for All plan. And so that could require, once you're at 28 until you get down to 14, it's weekly testing for both students and staff. So Mr. Aquino and I have been attending webinars and researching Valencia Laboratories, who is able to keep up with that type of testing. So we are onboarding and getting ready to work with and partner with Valencia, so that when we get to the point that that's required, we'll be ready to have that testing at the sites and the district office to have that weekly testing until we get below 14 cases, and then it's every other week. I also wanted to touch on the social emotional wellness. As we all know, this is hard on everyone, and I just wanted to remind people, please don't hesitate to request assistance if you have a student or you know of any child that may need assistance for any kind of social emotional concern. If you go on our website and look at the quick links at the top of the homepage, there is a little happy face and a social emotional wellness. If you click on that, you'll see at the bottom that request for assistance link. And of course, you may also, and as many parents have done, go directly to your site, your counselor. But I calculated the numbers and looked at just the requests for assistance that have come from off that link. And we've had almost 500 requests, and that's in addition to people going straight to the counselors and the sites, which most people do. But I'm glad to see people are using it. Please don't hesitate to use that or contact your school directly. Also on that link, we have a Contact Us, and every school is listed with all the different personnel from that site that support social emotional wellness, from the school counselor, from the school psychologist, from the mental health therapist with their contact information. So if you're ever just trying to reach someone, and I know it's hard right now in this type of setting, but it has their email address, and that's the best way to reach people. So please don't hesitate with that. And as I always say at the important reminders, what can we do to lower the case rate so we're able to open schools and stay healthy until we can get that vaccine? Wear your face coverings, wear them appropriately. Make sure you have them on all the time when you're around people. Maintain your distance like we're doing in here. I want to say don't gather. We have to gather sometimes, but particularly with staff, we have our meetings all Zoom and GoToMeeting, and we try not to gather as much as possible. And, you know, we have our staff do that daily wellness screen every morning, but it's good for everybody. You know, do you have any of the symptoms, just like when you go in anywhere? Do you have a fever? You know, stay home as much as possible. And we're almost at the end of this, and we want to be able to do that and keep everybody well. So do your part, take care of yourself and others. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Thank you, Cabinet. We stand ready should there be any questions or comments.
Danica, do you have any questions or comments to the board? Wendy Jonathan, any questions or comments?
Thank you so much for the information. I was busy taking notes while you were going on, so I made sure that I had information about what you said. Again, it all comes down to the level we're at as far as what tier we're in, and as you said, January 19th is not going to, things are not going to happen in a week from now, and everything will be back to normal the way it used to be. And I'm concerned that our numbers might be high as well in February. So I agree with a lot of what the superintendent said. I did have a couple of questions to ask very quickly. I know that you mentioned about COVID testing at Amistad starting 119, and you said that you could find it. I went onto the website when you said that, and I noticed going on, you kind of had to find it. Is there a way we can make sure that there's a link on our front page where they can go straight to that COVID testing? Because some people may want to go to the district level. I know that right now that a lot of these COVID testing sites are filling up, and it's really difficult to find an open spot. So the easier we make it for our parents and our staff to locate it on our website, the more beneficial it is. And finally, I know, Laura, you'd also mentioned that 10 days from the positive case that they can go back. I'm aware that my brother and his family had COVID and they were 10 days. That being said, he took the test again to make sure that they were negative, and he's taken it a couple of times. His wife and his daughter are now negative, but he's still positive. Are we positive? I mean, can the health department say unequivocally that even though that you had, it's 10 days after you're positive, you have been determined positive, that 10 days keeping isolated is enough, and that even though you may be positive for 90 days, does that mean you're not contagious? I just want to clarify that, because I would be a little afraid if we had someone that's positive and they were 30 days out and still positive and they were still contagious. Do we know for sure that they're no longer contagious after 10 days?
Wendy, that is the state and county public health guidelines, because it's not just 10 days after the test. You have to meet all three of the criteria. You have to be without fever for 24 hours, without medication.
Right.
And you have to have the substantial improvement of symptoms. So if you meet those two, then 10 days, yes, that's what they have said unequivocally, that is the criteria, and that they're no longer contagious. It's just because having that in your system, when you continue to test, it's going to come up positive. But it doesn't mean that you're still contagious, because that is the guidelines. And I forgot, and when you said that, I looked down at my paper. There's also, if you don't mind, there's also been a change in the quarantine timelines, and this is for everyone, in California. The CDC changed it to 10 days, and CDPH aligned with that. So now when a person's quarantined, which means they've been exposed to a positive case, not that they have a positive case, but they've been exposed. And in the past, that was a 14-day quarantine. Now it's 10 days. And then you can come out of your quarantine. And for the case of employees, they can come back to work, but they have to wear a surgical mask like this one for the next 4 days, which completes the 14-day quarantine. But again, if you've tested negative, you haven't had any symptoms, you can come back after 10 days and wear the surgical mask for 4 more days. But Ms. Jonathan, yes, the 10 days with a positive COVID has been, the criteria is right off from the public health, and we've been in many discussions with them on that. So that's why they don't recommend, even for surveillance testing, we wouldn't retest Mr. Zink again, for example, on the surveillance testing, because for 90 days it would continue, up to 90 days, it continue to look positive.
And again, clarification, and I don't mean to be a pain about this, but they've said, well, you can get COVID again. Who's to say then that you're not actively getting COVID again? I don't know. That's my only concern, is the whole idea of being positive, and how do they know that they haven't gotten it again, or are they truly immune for 90 days? Does this make sense to you, what I'm saying? I'm just a little concerned about that whole aspect.
Right. I'm not a medical doctor, but I do, go by the public health guidelines, and that's what they've stated in regards to being able to come out of isolation and no longer continuing to be contagious.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Linda Porras, do you have any questions or comments?
No, just thank you for all the information. I appreciate it. I have no comments or questions. Thank you.
Tricia Pierce.
Just want to welcome Danica to the board, and also give a big thanks to the teachers and parents and students that have stayed with the efforts and diligence of distance learning. We all know it's beyond difficult and very tiring at this time, but hopefully, and I know our numbers keep climbing in Riverside County, so I'm just hoping for the best in that. Also, I'm glad to hear that we'll be giving sites for COVID testing and hopefully the COVID vaccines. And I know I was thinking if Governor Newsom's plan gets passed, with one of the things he mentioned where students and teachers could be vaccinated. I didn't know how that works really, because I didn't think the vaccine was, or maybe it was just they're tested. No, I think it was that they're vaccinated too. Anyway, I didn't think the vaccine was approved for kids yet, or maybe they're working on that. Had we heard anything about a vaccine for kids yet?
So right now the phases are, I think the youngest is 16, but what is included in the plan is the testing for students and staff every week and then every other week. Yes.
Yet. Okay.
And for clarification, that's if your case rates are in the proposed plan. If your case rates are 14 per 100,000 up to the 28 per 100,000, and remember 28 per 100,000, the proposed plan is what's required to bring persons back in phases. So the 14 to 28 requires weekly testing of students and staff.
I think that was it. Thank you.
Anna Conover, do you have any questions or comments?
I do, actually. I was listening to Ms. Fisher talk about the social emotional wellness, and I went on the site while she was talking to see, if one of the main concerns I get when people email me or letters are sent to the board is about a student's mental health. My child is, depressed, they're anxious, they can't sleep, they're stressed out. And so I was thinking, and I wanted to know exactly where we had that information. Could I find that information right away? So I went on the site, and thank you for guiding me through that, Ms. Fisher. And social emotional wellness, I see it in the quick links. It's this tiny little happy face. It's this tiny little happy face. And I'm wondering, I mean, that's a really important information we need out there. I did go into the link. I saw all the wonderful things we have in there. Is it possible to have that a little bit bigger, to make it so that people don't have to search for it? If I'm, as a parent, if I was like really upset, really wanting to get help for my student, I would want it, if I needed to go to that website, I would want it to, be able to be seen in big, big letters, big colors, something. Is that possible? Because as it is, it's just this tiny little quick link with a little happy face, and I don't know. I want to make the process as easy as possible for parents to have access to getting help for their students.
I can certainly work with Jan Diaz, who's our website designer. We put the quick links across the top so that parents those would be the links that we would think that people would need. And so the social emotional wellness, it should be a happy face with social emotional wellness under it.
Right.
Yeah, and then you click on that and it has the link on it and then the contact us. But I can certainly look into it because I know it is so important and I don't want to have anyone have trouble finding it. And like you said, particularly if they are, concerned and upset and needing to find something. So I'll certainly work with Jan and see if there's something we can do to make it stand out or make it bigger or something that's easier to find.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure because I do know, I know Mr. Webb has done a couple of YouTube videos on that as well.
Yes.
And yeah, that's one of the main concerns I hear. So thank you. And I think that's my, another question. As far as when vaccinating of education in people in education, and if they will be using the facilities at the old Amistad, I think, Mr. Bailey, did you say that we were going to try and figure out something so that our employees could go get vaccinated there? Is that what I understood?
I think we're confusing two things again. We have testing, and we have a unique partnership with Riverside University Public Health in the sense that we've resurrected the testing site for the community at the old Amistad building, whereas the vaccination partnership that just recently emerged this week, and we're very thankful for that partnership, is going to be at the current La Quinta High School.
Okay, yes,
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, my only comment is, after listening to all the reports, I'm really appreciative of all the people we have working in the district that are making things ready to go whenever we get the word that we can go. Jordan and our nutrition people are still providing the free breakfast and lunch for the people in our community that need that. Our security is still out there patrolling our schools. Regardless of the students not being at our schools, we still have criminals at our schools that are stealing copper wire and doing all those things. And so it's frustrating that our students aren't back, but I do want to recognize the fact that we have some really outstanding and dedicated employees that continue to do the job and have been doing the job since March of last year in providing meals, security, technology. We really appreciate the things that you're doing for us. Okay, now we're going to move on to public comment, and I'll turn that over to Tricia Pierce.
Okay, I have a communications from the floor criteria to read. In accordance with policy 9323, dated 4/21/98, time is reserved for oral communications by members of the Board of Education or by citizens present. Citizens wishing to be heard on agenda items shall have a 3-minute limit and should indicate their intention at this time. Those wishing to make a formal presentation to the board may do so during the conference items section of the agenda. In accordance with the law, decisions of the board cannot be made on any matter not previously published before the board meeting as indicated in policy 9323.2, dated 4/21/98. So I will read the names as they come up of the people that will be speaking in person first. Catherine Silvera.
Good afternoon. When we return to normal, it's important to figure out when and how we open our brick and mortar schools. We shouldn't lose focus, though, on what this normal looks like for our schools. This idea of normal is it really something we should strive for? Things need to change, and we are in a unique position to enact lasting reform. As a district, I believe that we can do much better than this normal for our children. Normal academics. According to the National Assessment of Education Progress, normal for the nation includes 15% of our 8th graders scoring proficient at U.S. history, 25 in civics and geography. Normal for the United States is 35% of our 4th and 8th graders proficient in reading. Is this something we really want to strive for? Let's change this normal. Why not look for content-based curricula for our youngest grades? Give our kids the vocabulary, history, knowledge to analyze this world around them. Knowledge is the door to comprehension, and let's not keep that door closed for them. Now let's not stop there. This entire pandemic, we heard how important schools are for our children, mental health and physical health. So why should we turn to this old normal? The American School Counselor Association said there needs to be one school counselor, not guidance counselor, school counselor for every 250 students. California has 1 to every 450 students. I hear many advocating for our students' mental health during this pandemic. Let's be proactive. Let's get our students the mental health care in schools that they deserve. Now, what's stopping us from achieving better than normal employment of school nurses, school interventionists, speech pathologists? Let's show our community and kids how much we value them and not accept the normal. Normal for our teachers? That is a 56-hour work week. That normal is earning 20% less than their equally educated peers. 1 in 5 teachers have a second job during the school year to make ends meet. 1 in 3 if you are a first-year teacher. A teacher's normal is being told that their job is expendable, yet being told that they have to risk their lives every day. Is this the normal we want? Normal is micromanagement and stifling new ideas. Normal is 84% of teachers nationwide wanting to incorporate a curriculum that is anti-racist in nature, yet only 14 have the resources and training to do this. Let's provide our teachers with the tools and resources to change normal. Let them have the freedom to enact a more equitable grading system. Let's have the teachers change the old normal for Desert Sand. Trustees, I ask, is normal the thing we want to go back to? We've seen how important schools are for our communities. We have a great opportunity now. Will you accept the old normal or set Desert Sands apart from the rest? Our students deserve that we strive for better than normal. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Jackson Blakely.
I'd like to start off by apologizing for maybe not being as professionally dressed or best dressed as some of you guys are. I just got off a condition with my basketball team prior to this meeting. We have conditioning twice a week for an hour each day. It's the
Jackson,
closest...
could you put it to your mouth so we could hear what you're saying or speak to it?
Is this better? It's conditioning, we have conditioning twice a week for an hour each day. It's the closest my teammates and I feel to being normal during this pandemic. There are currently 30 states playing high school sports, 22 of which have more positive COVID cases per 100,000 than the state of California. To be able to play sports or even being around teammates, coaches, and friends, especially in a time like this, has had a great impact mentally and physically for my teammates and I. People use school and sports as an escape from potential home and mental health issues. But with at-home learning and constant postponing of fall and spring sports, we are drowning. In February of 2020, my 10-year-old sister at the time told the therapist that she had thoughts of hanging herself. The therapist responded by doing nothing. They didn't notify the correct authorities and didn't notify my family. 2 weeks later, my little sister had a mental breakdown where she finally expressed to us about her feelings of suicide. It was only later that we found out a therapist hired by the school that she attended knew about her thoughts and failed to notify the people necessary. Since February 2020, we have since gotten my sister the help she needs. We have admitted her into a youth mental health institution based in Loma Linda, transferred her out of the district, where she is now in a private school where they are in-person learning 5 days a week, with her mental health majorly improving, while they have had 0 COVID cases so far this year. During the darkest point of my life, that February, the only way I knew how to cope was with friends, family, and sports. Being able to have that social interaction with friends, teammates, and coaches and school counselors is maybe the sole factor I'm here speaking to you tonight. During the 2020-2021 school year, we've had minimal communication with the district regarding mental health. We have received a crisis line number that's copy and pasted into a monthly newsletter, along with social and emotional learning videos that haven't evolved and have repeated the same issues and coping mechanisms for those issues only. We have received surveys that we are told are required by the district annually. These, however, are noticeably outdated, as there are questions such as, how safe do you feel at school, even though we haven't been at school in almost a year. These surveys are supposed to connect personally to us students, but lose that feeling when we are being asked questions that are irrelevant to our current situation. Teachers are feeling disconnected.
His time, he has 3 more minutes, please set for that he was dedicated by Maggie Blakely.
Teachers are feeling disconnected from their students, as self-admittedly, we don't pay enough attention, as we just find all the answers online now. Effectively learning nothing. Although you might be seeing rises in grades, it is not because we are doing better effort-wise. But now it's easier now than ever to just pay attention enough to know the topic, but not enough to know the given details by the instructor or teacher, and to just look them up online. There's simply too many distractions at home for people who have disorders such as ADD, ADHD, OCD, depression, anxiety, and other panic disorders, for at-home learning to be deemed good enough. I understand what these people are going through because I personally have been diagnosed with ADHD and with anxiety and depression also being in my family. People are suffering every day from these issues, and we are feeling ignored and alone. There needs to be a better system. We have had our senior year that we all dreamt of as kids ripped away from us. Traditions have been stopped, and our rite of passage have been stolen. I'd give anything to see in June not only the kids who have fought through so many adversities in this past year, but all the trials and tribulations that we have gone through the past 4 to graduate. I'm standing here as a Palm Desert High School senior, imploring you guys to fight for us and make this about the safety and best interests of students. Thank you.
Thank you. Ursula Laguillo.
Good evening. I stand before you again as a paraeducator and as a newly elected Chief Union Steward for CSEA to request a follow-up answer to my email that I sent to Chad Wood, Dr. Hennings, Laura Fisher, and Dr. Salazar on December 14th, 2020. In regards, once again, to substitutes for paraeducators. It has been brought to my attention that some sites are still not allowing substitutes for paraeducators. There seems to be an ongoing confusion about the proper procedure for requesting a substitute for paraeducators. I spoke about this issue at the board meeting on November 17th, 2020, and Dr. Salazar gave an explanation to Wendy Jonathan, stating that other paraeducators could cover for each other. There seems to be an assumption that we have free paraeducators who have no daily duties and can cover an absence for a fellow paraeducator. This assumption is incorrect, as my understanding and what I do on a daily basis is each monthly paraeducator works daily on a Zoom schedule supporting students. I am hoping to get a clarification on this issue and make sure that principals, admin assistants, and paraeducators know that the current procedure is for requesting a sub, and which department is in charge of making such decisions for special education paraeducators. Would that be Dr. Charity Hennings, Director of Special Education, Laura Fisher, Assistant Superintendent of Student Services, Donna Salazar, Assistant Superintendent of Personnel, or Chad Wood, Director of Classified. I hope this issue gets resolved soon, and I look forward to the response of the district in this chaotic times. I once again stand here for clarification. I would like it to be communicated what is the procedure for subs for paraeducators as we sit here and discuss distance learning and small cohorts. Paraeducators are vital to the support of students, and we deserve to have substitutes, and that communication needs to come to everybody, just not certain people. Thank you.
Okay, Felipa Manriquez, you just were allotting time. You don't need it. Okay. All right. Next speaker would be Athena Martinez, and she gets 3 extra minutes given to her from Kim Hetherington.
First of all, I'd just like to say thank you so much, young man, Mr. Blakely, for coming up here and speaking. Thank you, Mama Blakely, and I'm so sorry for what your family has been going through, and know that I'm up here today because of your family and every other family that students are suffering. I'm here as a parent and a teacher to speak to you about following through on reopening schools with the protocols that you have in place that you talked about today. But in particular, I would like to speak about our elementary schools that are most able, in the most able position due to their size and structure, that have been encouraged by Governor Newsom's new policies. To be honest, I'm not sure which direction I should face when I'm up here speaking in this forum, because the power seems to lie behind me at the union president's table instead of in front of me with our elected governing board. The last time I spoke here, your union president at this very lectern made the unilateral declaration that no elementary school would open, no elementary teacher would return to the classroom until all teachers were able to return to the classroom. The Desert Sands Teachers Association president, in defiance of logic and science and the standards set across the world and in the U.S. for elementary schools being the first to open, declared science and logic null and void with that single statement. That statement was intended to stall the process of return as long as she possibly could stall it, but it also shows a reckless pattern of disregard for the opinions of her members, and you, the board, need to know that. We know that science tells us emergency rooms have seen a 24% increase in mental health-related visits from children ages 5 to 11. The increase is higher among older kids, 31%. UNICEF, the CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics agree that schools are fundamental to child development and well-being. Physical and sexual abuse, substance abuse, depression, and suicidal ideation, which we heard here today, have dramatically increased as a result of this shutdown. Furthermore, these impacts are visited more severely on students of color as well as low-income children and those with learning disabilities. I expect you to know the consequences of continued school closures on our children, and also the data showing that schools, and in particular elementary schools, are not stoking community transmission of the coronavirus. But on each occasion that I have been here speaking, I never had a sense of the urgency of the need to reopen our schools, despite your own polling and parent feedback that indicated parents wanted an educational option for their children, the majority of parents. So now I'd like to represent myself as one of the 900. As of the last board meeting, 900 families have left the district, and I am one of them. Since October, my 5th grader has a renewed zest for life and learning. He left Desert Sands to attend Desert Christian Academy 5 days a week for live and in-person instruction. He is happy to wear a mask all day long if it means being in school. He is happy to clean his hands multiple times a day if it means he can be in school. He is happy to stay 6 feet apart from his friends if it means that he can play at lunch. This is no prison school like your DSTA president described at this very lectern. This is a place where kids are learning and thriving and having their emotional and education needs met. As of yesterday, his younger brother joined him. So that begs the question, if I have taken care of my children, why am I still here? I am here to fight for all of those children whose parents can't be here and for all of those children whose desperate parents cannot afford alternatives. You could have initiated the waiver process, but you didn't. You now have more options for opening elementary schools this year. Every day wasted is a life that could be lost. I expect you to act in the best interest of all students this time and make that happen. But you will have to stand up for children by standing up to the person sitting behind me. I represent over 900 and counting disenfranchised, disillusioned former DSUSD parents. We pleaded, we wrote, we tried, and then we walked away. Almost 2 elementary schools worth of students. New teachers, if you are listening, that is your job. How is your union representing you? In terms of the public perception, please note that we can agree that our classroom teachers are working harder than ever. Asking that our kids be allowed to learn in person is not an insult to your hard work. As parents, our most important job is to do what is best for our children. This district has failed us. Here is where I see hope, and it lies in the power of the silenced teachers in this district. Those teachers like me who disagree with the position of the CTA stalling the reopening of schools, who disagree with your union president, but who feel trapped and voiceless to do anything about it. I left my teachers' union to send a message to the CTA. I am still completely covered by the negotiated contract and have my own liability policy. Teachers, you can make a statement like I did by leaving the teachers' union, withdrawing your $1,200 a year that funds all of the rhetoric against school reopenings and science, against what's best for students. You don't have to protest, but you can do this simple thing and leave the union that does not hear you and does not see you, and leave this union that is hurting our students. Leave the union and restore faith in teachers by the disenfranchised parents who blame you for what is happening. It may not be your fault, but if you disagree with your leadership, what are you doing about it? Thank you.
Okay, the next person is, I'm not sure if it's Bill Coty or Corey. Cody, okay.
Hello, I've got some good news for you folks. Anybody who's got Desert Oasis Healthcare, they're just finishing up the Section 1A this week. They said I talked to them this morning, they'll be done with Group 1A by the end of the week, possibly Monday. They said that there's no way for them in their system to pull data showing what people do for jobs. So they will not be able to add people who are teachers to the list automatically. They told me to call early next week to talk to them and make sure that I, as a teacher, am on the list for Section 1B. So all teachers need to be able to start doing that if they're under Desert Oasis Healthcare. I don't know what Kaiser is doing, I don't know what the others are doing, but I know for sure what Desert Oasis told me.
Thank you. Last in-person one is Trina Gonzalez-Alisi. Oh. Okay. You could go ahead. No, here. Here, but you can go ahead and speak right now while you're out. Okay, Trina. That's all right. Trina, you're next then.
Good evening, Cabinet and Board. I'm Trina Gonzalez-Alisi, DSTA President. I feel a little bit like a broken record because I'm going to deliver some of the same information that I have been delivering. First and foremost, teachers are at the very front of the line to say that we want to be back in the classroom with our students as much as students and families do. We are more than willing to do that when it is safe to do so. I think that there are two sides of this argument, and I totally understand and sympathize with the frustration and the anger especially missing once-in-a-lifetime opportunities when you're a senior in high school, and all of those things that are being taken away from you. I think what needs to be said is that the virus is what is taking these opportunities away from you. The virus is prohibiting you from participating in sports. The virus is prohibiting us from having graduation ceremonies and proms and all of the other rites of passage that usually come with a high school experience, and I totally sympathize with that. It's not the school board that is taking that away from our students. It's not the teachers union that is taking that away from our students. It's the fact that we are living during a pandemic. It's extremely important that we keep everyone as safe as possible. And I know that the only way that I know that I will not contract the virus or be an asymptomatic spreader of the virus is if I do not congregate with people. I think that this is something that if we would have done it, and I've said this before, if we would have done it wholeheartedly at the beginning, we would be in a much better place than we are right now. And that's speaking for the whole state of California. I just want to let you know also that I am one person. Yes, I am I have the title of DSTA president, but that's because somebody has to have that. DSTA is an organization that's made up of almost 1,400 teachers in Desert Sands, and they overwhelmingly stand united, and that is the message that I have been given. If I haven't heard the other side, that is up to the other people to communicate that with me. Overwhelmingly, we do stand united. And there is a little bit of concern, I'm going to say, with the governor's proposal that elementary resume before secondary. But I also believe that with the health metrics that we have in Riverside County, that we have time to discuss those issues. And as we have done in the past, the cabinet, the school board, and the associations work together collaboratively to come up with what is best for all of our students and their families. Thank you.
Okay, next is Tricia Ryan.
First of all, I want to say I taught Danica and Jackson, and I'm so very proud of both of them. And Jackson, I know your family well. I had no idea you were going through all this. And they're both exceptional young people and seniors, and I'm here speaking on behalf of them and all the other kids. I came here in May because I did a terrible job teaching in the spring, from March 13th to May. So I came to this board meeting to see what I could do and learn about the reopening plan so I could spend my summer making better plans. And I heard a whole agenda from CTA that had nothing to do with anything I believe in, and frankly left out reopening sports. So I came back again in June, or reopening schools. I came back in June and found out that they stated in June, no sports should happen this year at all. So that was stated in June. You guys were here, I was here. I've come to the meetings, I've listened, I've submitted one, my husband came, my son has come. So 43 states did play fall sports. 48 states are now offering in-person teaching, including Oregon and New York City, because the parents protested. They got their leaders to actually realize that the benefits outweigh the risk. You guys have to start speaking up for students. I listened to all those meetings. I kept saying, you guys keep talking about staff. Students should come first. These are delay tactics that are being put on. You know they are. You know it's delay tactics. So 204 schools did conditioning in California since June. You guys didn't allow us to do conditioning. Actually, you said it started in October, but you held it off another 2 weeks, just so you know. I mean, let's make that clear from the earlier statements. You held us back 2 more weeks. There were 609,477 workouts for football teams in California that were allowed to condition since June because their districts actually cared about those kids. And there were 2 cases traced to that. I'm here advocating for your student athletes. CIF has left flexibility for you guys.
I have volunteered to be on your reopening committees. You guys didn't want me. I'm a 28-year employee, 30 years. I taught at McFarland, and then I came here. I was offered administrative opportunities, a job at Palm Desert High when I was 27 years old as an administrator. I'm 53 now. I've filled in for administrators around the district. I am here to speak that you guys can offer intra-district competitions. CIF left it open to you. I have also put together packets since you guys did not want me on your reopening committee. I volunteered for DSTA. I volunteered in the superintendent's office. Nobody wanted me. You guys picked people that intend for schools to be closed all year. You put those people on the committee that want to be closed this year and actually next year. Why would you not pick somebody who's open-minded? I have the interest of the students. I'm not self-serving. I'm here. Here's packets. These schools know how to do it. This is not hard to look at. There's like 7 schools. It's all done for you. And I want to say, love to Paul Thompson. He made a really big impact on the students in the city of Palm Desert and soccer. So thank you. Here's the packets. I hope you actually look at them. I would love to volunteer.
Okay, the last in person is Manny Ott.
Good evening. Like most good tax-paying Californians, I've been spending a lot of time recently looking at places to move to. Since we have family and a place to live in Florida, I looked at it. Obviously, Florida is wide open with schools going 5 days a week, and all fall sports have been played. And they even have indoor dining. Amazingly, Florida's rate of infection per 100,000 people is lower than California. However, moving to Florida is a little too open for our sensibilities. Next, we looked at moving to Arizona. My wife and I met at the University of Arizona. We have friends there, and it would be easy for me to work from there. Specifically, we looked at both Desert Mountain and Socorro High School in the Scottsdale Unified School District. Those schools are about the same size as PD. But unlike our California schools, though, they open for full in-person learning on September 10th. While playing a full slate of fall sports. Finally, we looked at Massachusetts. As we have family there, and again, it would be easy for me to transfer to. Specifically, we looked at North Kingston High and Bishop Freeman High. Just like most of the country, they started with full in-person classes on September 14th. They closed bars and restaurants there on November 28th, but they kept their schools open. All those kids are still going to full in-person classes today. When studying their approaches to reopening, I was most impressed with their protocols, specifically related to sports. They were smart, well thought out, and most importantly, allowed those schools to get back to school and sports. I'm a big proponent of getting back to sports. One of the worst ideas I've heard is canceling sports. What would happen if we canceled high school sports? Well, they would simply join unregulated club teams and do them anyway. This is dangerous in containing the virus, and who knows what kind of techniques are being taught by those kids. I want my kids being taught by actual coaches like Shane McComb. Maybe we can look at Massachusetts protocols for high school basketball as an example. They started practice last week on January 4th. In order to start practice, the kids have to have a negative COVID test within 72 hours. All players have to wear masks. They can only have 12 players on the team and 2 coaches. They're asking players and coaches to close their circle of friends to protect the team, and only allowing 2 spectators per player for each game. While these protocols are far from ideal, if that's what it takes to get our kids back at it, I'm all for it.
Okay, so now we're going to go to the reading section. We're going to put 10 minutes on the clock. Trish is going to randomly reach into the box and pull out, make sure it says they want it read though, because some of them say no. And we will start the clock. Go ahead.
Okay, the first one is from Laura Kramer. She Hello, everyone. I would like to think that this letter is unnecessary because people would be using common sense and looking out for each other's welfare, especially during a deadly pandemic. Unfortunately, that is not the case. Last week, our nation witnessed a lack of common sense or concern for our fellow citizens' welfare on a grand scale. However, our legislators represent us all and chose to do what's best for our country rather than bow to a vocal minority. They took the high road. I'm asking our school board, who represents us all in Desert Sands, to do the same. Initially, I was not one of the teachers stating that we shouldn't open until staff is vaccinated, but things have changed. We're a hot spot in the U.S. with cases rising astronomically, no hospital beds, a mutated virus in our midst, and outbreaks in Desert Sands even without students present. Our schools aren't yet ready, as plexi barriers, HEPA filters, and even sanitizer dispensers have yet to be installed at all sites, and the district is not consistent in reporting the cases to site staff. Custodians report that 6-foot distancing cannot be maintained in many classrooms that just aren't large enough. The vaccine is here, and educational staff are next in line to receive it. As students are ineligible for the vaccine, it is imperative that school staff have the opportunity to receive it to protect themselves. Please remember that teachers will be exposed to up to 30 students weekly in a confined space for 6.5 hours, 4 days a week. That's high risk. It would be unethical and unconscionable to knowingly expose us to a deadly disease when vaccine protection is just weeks away. Please, as a parent, educator, and nurse, I beg you to look at the big picture and take the high road. Wait to reopen until staff can be protected by immunization. Parents, please hold on a little longer. This action would protect and benefit our students and our families in the long run. Thank you. The next one is from Kelly Geller. I should put my glasses on. Please get back to school and sports, an important healthy option, and stop politics for the sake of our children. We are all concerned, but please give your staff an option, either distance learning from home or in school with children. Those teachers that return for our amazing children deserve a pay increase. Children have been telling us they were starting back in September, November, and January with excitement. At this time, it is the bad news parents saying, you are not going to go back. They are upset they are still at home with no socialization with their peers. All children are suffering in some aspect. Those that need in-school learning to encourage them to do well, those that have high GPAs that are now having meltdowns. How about the children that looked forward to a sport as they may not be attached to the education side of school? We need to build self-esteem. Many parents want children in school, the better option which builds confidence and socialization. Distance learning is not for every child. We all need to make the choice that best suits us. We have completed 3 surveys and after almost a year to plan and getting children back in school and sports. Please respect our wishes. Thank you, creative coaches that have seen outside the box and know sports are essential and kept some children active. It has created some travel time to other cities and states, but we look at this in happiness and a highlight of the current times. Those parents that decide sports are important for their child can sign a release form, something similar to the one we sign, releasing the school of other liabilities. Our option as of today for parents is to move out of California or find a private school for our children. So in the middle of a year, do you think our children will transfer easily into another school? Will the learning level be the same? And is this a permanent move and decision we are forced to make? Thank you for decisions to do something healthy for all of us involved. Maria DeAngelo. These words were written by Dr. Leanna Wen, emergency physician and visiting professor at George Washington University, Milken Institute School of Public Health, and former Baltimore Health Commissioner, published in the Washington Post on November 24, 2020. With much of the United States engulfed in exponential virus spread and many hospitals already overwhelmed, most schools should close and stay closed through the winter. Instead of schools closing only when there are proven outbreaks, schools must prove they're safe before they can open. In some areas, in a room of 20 people, there is a nearly 1 in 4 chance that someone has COVID-19. The American Academy of Pediatrics reported on November 17th that nearly 1.2 million children were diagnosed with COVID-19, nearly 12% of the total infections. During the week ending November 19, there were more than 144,000 new cases in children, by far the highest weekly increase since the pandemic began. Imagine you're a teacher who works in a poorly ventilated classroom for multiple hours a day. It's challenging to keep physical distancing, and there's a high likelihood that one of your students has the coronavirus and could transmit it to you. Being told that school transmission is not the main driver of community spread is hardly reassuring when you are the one shouldering the individual risk. 1 in 4 teachers are older or have chronic health conditions that predispose them to serious illness if they contract COVID-19. Others might have household members for whom exposure is more likely to result in hospitalization or death. Loss of learning is not the same as loss of life. We cannot put the burden of society's failures on the people who work in schools. If we truly want to prioritize children, we need to drive down community infection rates, not jeopardize the lives of teachers, staff, and their families. Let's read aloud. Carly Busalis. It's time to get these students back in class. I'm a single mom with a son in 7th grade and a daughter in 9th grade. The emotional and mental impact of this has been devastating. Our children are falling behind, and to them it feels as if no one cares. Last night, my 9th grader was telling me how she worries constantly for several of her friends who are in bad situations at home. This has been her main concern over the last 10 months. She knows that several of her friends count on school to be their safe place. She told me she would sacrifice anything to see them back in school. It breaks my heart that at her age she is losing sleep over the well-being of her friends and how helpless it makes her feel. It's wrong. My children have seen many friends return to a local private school and have seen that they have been able to do that safely. Private school is not an option for us. Their cousin in public school in Northern California has also successfully returned to school. It's time for our kids to do the same. What they have experienced in the last 10 months is not an education. Teachers push out way more work than the students can begin to keep up with. When they need help, they aren't getting the help they need. I know that many of their friends have been pulled from the district and have found homeschool alternatives that have been a much lighter workload and less stress on the kids during this already stressful time. If these kids don't return to school soon, I will be seeking an alternative solution as well because this is not working. Enough is enough. Next one is Ryan Gordon. Good afternoon. I write to you with great concern for our children and their future. It was brought to my attention that the possibility of a 2021 through 2022 school year is in jeopardy. If this is true, this is an absolute travesty. Our youth are suffering well beyond academics, and it's time for all of us to accept the fact that it is time to go back to school. I, like many, are essential workers. I believe that more importantly, teachers are essential. We have well-known doctors in the community who are not willing but screaming to let their kids go back to school. We also have several private schools which have returned to class in September with 0 known COVID cases. The threat is real, but at what cost? It has been 44 weeks since we have been wearing masks, and numbers continue to rise. It's apparent that it does not matter if you wear a mask or you don't wear a mask if you have to go out in public or you stay at home. At this point, the survival rate is equal to or even better than the flu. It is time to stop ignoring the facts, stop listening to public media, and return to school. Youth across the state are quickly going to be left behind by other kids across this nation who are back to school and are able to play sports and participate in academic studies. I am prepared to fight for our youth. They are our future. They are our next teachers. They are our next police force. They are our next to first responders and doctors. Having them sit in front of a laptop for nearly 7 hours a day while they're in school and then feeding them with assignments is not teaching. It is taking the cowardly way out. If you do not have a respiratory illness or a chronic disease, then there's no reason for anybody to not be in a classroom teaching our children. I'm not saying it's going to be the same or back to normal, but something needs to happen. Our youth are lonely. They're becoming greatly depressed, and they will not be able to survive in the real world. Leslie Cantor. This is to address all board members, union representatives, teachers, and staff. Your time is here to get a vaccination. Be a part of the solution, not part of the problem. Many of you claimed you would not go back to the classroom until there was a vaccine. Here's your opportunity to be vaccinated, to get back into the classroom and teach our children the way they deserve to be taught. Zoom is not working and our children are falling behind. And let's not forget about all the mental health challenges, attempted suicides and deaths we've had because of school closures. You say you wear a mask to protect others from you. Why would you not get vaccinated to protect those as well? Our governor says it's time to get kids back to the classroom. We all know his own kids are in the classroom. Schools that are open have not seen the increases in COVID like you expected. My daughter has been back in public school teaching in Orange County since September. They've had 0 incidents. These kids that are seniors desperately need a senior year. Remember back when you were a senior, all the exciting things you were able to enjoy? Football, homecoming, winter ball, prom, rallies, graduation, the list goes on. When you can be a part of the solution, why do you want to deprive them of these things? For those of you that are afraid and say you wear a mask to protect others and call others selfish, here's your opportunity. Get vaccinated. You don't be selfish. Be a part of the solution. Don't be part of the problem. Open our schools. Is that all we have time for?
That will conclude public comments. Now we will go to board and superintendent comments. Danica, would you like to make a comment on anything?
Well, I'm anxious for everyone else to get back to school. I just see that it's a hard decision for everyone. I just think we all need to do everything that we can to stop the spread and lower the case numbers that we can get back to school and get back to level.
That's all. Okay, Tricia Pierce.
I just want to say that I, especially reading both types of letters of opening and not opening until it's safe, that I'm really encouraged by the vaccine coming to the educators and all the staff in the schools, and that would be a huge help. And that if we can get our numbers down, then things will be more encouraging, and these going back to school or making a plan would be more feasible. But at this time, as we know, our date of the 19th is in the future, and numbers keep rising. So I just wanted to say that, to encourage people on social media and in public to be kind, to not attack others for their differences in opinion, and to don't spread things that aren't true. Be mindful of what you're saying, and mindful of how it affects others, because we're all in this together, as you keep hearing, and it just doesn't serve any purpose. So I hope that we can all work together and someday have it all back to normal.
Wendy Jonathan.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say congratulations to Mr. Garza and Mr. Ramirez for their new positions in our school district. I'm looking forward to meeting them in person, and I'm sure that they will do a wonderful job in their new positions. Danica, is your mom Mindy Larson that's a teacher in our school district? She is? Yes, she's sitting right here. Oh, I can barely hear you on my sound. But I was thinking, that's her mom. I'm pretty sure that her mom is a teacher in our school district. I know how proud they must be, your mom and dad, what you're doing. And I got to say, go Aztecs. My 2 boys went to Palm Desert High School. But congratulations on being on the board, and I'm sure that this is not the high school year you anticipated having, but hopefully that having this opportunity to be on the board is at least somewhat, makes up for somewhat of that. You know, because of the Brown Act, I can't get into much about the how we would vote or anything when it comes to the opening or not opening of schools. But I will ultimately say what I've been saying all along. It really is out of our hands right now. It's not even, it's a moot point, because unfortunately we are in the deep purple. We have no choice. We are legally not allowed to open schools. legally, we are not allowed to open up schools right now. So this is not even a choice that we have, a decision that we as a board can even vote on. It's out of our hands with respect to that. I would say, I know Dr. Fisher always says, I hope that you take precautions. Please wear your masks. Please do the social distance. Please don't get together with your friends. Don't go hiking with 5 friends all together. You know, I would hope that you would make good decisions. This new variant is a stronger variant, a stronger virus. And I lost 2 members of my family over the last 2 weeks. One was not from COVID, but his family was not able to say goodbye to him, and because he was in the hospital. But the other one was from COVID, and it happened very quickly. And it was a close relative of mine. And for those that were concerned about my brother, you know that my brother had it, and my brother is still positive, and I'm hoping that he'll come out of this unscathed. But it's a scary disease. And I just ask you to wear the masks and social distance. And I know restaurants aren't open, but that doesn't give you an opportunity to invite a group of friends over in your backyard without realizing you're having contact with everybody they had contact with. So let's try to keep everybody safe, be respectful, be kind, and realize nobody likes this situation, and everybody wishes that this was soon over with. So thank you for all the staff that are doing such hard work in our school districts, and our teachers, and again, our cabinet and our superintendent. Thank you again for all the hours you guys are all putting in, and you are appreciated. Thank you.
Linda Porras.
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge that we lost one of our own to COVID, Paul Thompson, who is a nutrition services assistant at Palm Desert High School. And I just want to offer our prayers and condolences are with his family and the staff that worked with him. And also, I lost a very close friend of the family to COVID over the holidays. And I keep talking to friends and family that have families and that have lost families over just through COVID. A friend of mine is an RN, and she started the day out with 10 patients on her shift. And by the end of the day, half of those patients were gone due to COVID. And it's traumatic just for her to have to go to work and have to lose people in that way. So COVID's running this show. We just like Wendy said, we are not the ones that can make a decision at this time, even though we would love to have our kids back in school and back in sports and everything that that everybody's talking about. I mean, it's heartbreaking, but God willing, this vaccine is going to change the course, and we can get back to our normal lives. I would also like to welcome Danica to the board. Welcome, and we're so happy that you're here representing Palm Desert. And also welcome back, Mr. Zink. Prayers answered. So thankful that you are home and back to work and with us. And I'd like to congratulate Mr. Garza. Keep smiling, and welcome to your new position. I'm sure you're going to do fantastic. And also Dr. Jose Ramirez for Summit Horizon. I think that by knowing the Baby Shark song and playing Legos with your child definitely qualifies you for doing what you need to do. So anyway, congratulations. And I look forward to meeting you and seeing all the great things that you're going to be doing at Summit Horizon. And I also just want to give a shout out to Nutrition Services, Dan Capello, that the City of Indio is going to be recognizing our lunch ladies, that Nutrition Services They have been working diligently, making meals and distributing meals since March 13th. And they have, it's just amazing what they've been doing. And we recognize them, and we're so glad that the city of Indio is going to be recognizing them for all that they do. So anyway, be kind to one another, wear your mask, please distance. I mean, I know that they say social distance, but you know, it's basically person to person distancing. We can socialize, you know, thank God we've got TV and Zoom and being able to at least see one another over the phone. So anyway, just take care, everyone, and we will definitely get through this together. Thank you so much.
Anna Conover.
Hi, I do want to welcome Donica to the board, and I do want to congratulate Mr. Garza and Dr. Ramirez on their new positions. I also want to thank our city leaders for their kind words and encouragement. And I do want to just a shout out to all the staff doing their best that we can. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay. What I do for a living lets me see a lot of angry people. And so I've determined that, you know, anger is when you want to do something and you don't have the ability to do it because someone is preventing you and you don't think it's justified. And so as I look out in the audience and I see the people that are angry, I sympathize with you, and I think with the amount, or with the teachers that we have that want to be back and the students that have weighed, their parents who've weighed the risks versus the benefits, I do think we should be able to come up with a solution to let certain people come back. And my personal opinion is we don't have to come back in lockstep. But when you're dealing with collective bargaining, you have to play the hand you're dealt. And so I'm receptive, and I will, if there is a solution that says we can bring the kids back to school and there are teachers that want to work and that is brought through the proper channels, I will vote that we do those things. And I don't think we have to come back all in one day on a flood where everybody comes back together. So I do want to say that I recognize your anger, and I believe it's justified because you clearly want something that you see as a benefit to your children that's being prevented from you, and it's outside your control. And so I don't like to see people angry here because I see angry people other places that I get my fill of that. So I support the athletics coming back. I know I've talked to a couple of high school principals. We've talked about, even if it's just an inter-squad game, even if Palm Desert just plays red against gold, I think it's important for everybody to have the opportunity. If you were a sophomore last year, or if you were a junior last year and you wanted to play varsity baseball, you will never put on a varsity uniform and go out on the field at Palm Desert. And that is something that we can never make up for those kids. And so if we're not willing to look at outside the box solutions and be innovative in our thinking, we're robbing people of opportunities. And I recognize that. But we have to get everybody on the same page, and we have to let the people that want to do things be allowed to do those things. So I appreciate your concern, and it resonates. And I hear the people that want to move to Arizona and want to move to Florida. My son lives in Texas. I know they're playing Friday Night Lights. It's all on. Games are on. So I don't, you know, when somebody says, and I don't know if your facts are correct because I couldn't find it on my phone, but if 48 states are playing and 48 states are opening, I do have a problem because I look to Sacramento and I know that the guy in charge up there, his kids are going to school. And he's, you know, going out to the French Laundry. And so he's doing all the things he's telling us not to do. And that's why we're angry. That's why you're sitting there with crossed arms and crossed legs and you're too tense. So I appreciate that. And I'm willing to look at any solution that'll get the kids back. And I think parents should have the opportunity to let their students play if there's coaches that want to do it. And in no way is this to be interpreted as a fact that I want to make students come back that don't want to come back, and I don't want to make teachers come back that are afraid of coming back. I just think both sides have an opportunity, and as long as you're on the side that sees the other side getting what they want and nobody even is giving you the service, your anger is not misplaced, and so I appreciate that. Well, that's what we say. We put students first. That's our goal, and that's what I'm trying to do. Mr. Bailey.
Thank you. Speaking of students, Danica, once again, welcome. I appreciated your comments. Very well said. Appreciate your parents being here and supporting you on a late night. I know you have difficult daily jobs as well. I wanted to share with everyone, recently had an ASB, actually cabinet joined me with an ASB president's meeting, so we do keep in touch with our senior leadership and absolutely love that communication. Even though it's distance and it's remote, I can guarantee you at least one of those kids had us in tears by the end of the meeting, so that was an awesome meeting, by the way. Congratulations to the board. It's CSBA Board Recognition Month. It's obvious these are difficult seats to set in during a pandemic with passionate opinions about the direction of the district. So I just want you to know, as a superintendent, I certainly appreciate and applaud your efforts. And then lastly, to the students, always students first, parents, staff, I just applaud everyone's effort. We're truly all in this together, and it means something different for each one of us, but ultimately we're in it together. And I know it's been a heroic lift. Teachers, just in these distance learning Zoom meetings, I can't even remember how many hours yesterday. I was dead tired by the end of the day. And whatever you do in distance learning as a staff member, a teacher, as a student, it takes like twice the effort to accomplish the same goal. And I know it's frustrating, and it's certainly not where I want to be. I personally miss the sound of school. I hate walking through schools right now just because it's so quiet. And I can't wait for that day. And to the board, to Mr. Griffith's comments, President Griffith, certainly the next available on-ramp, we want to be there and present the board with that opportunity. So we're remaining hopeful, optimistic that the governor's proposal will come true, and that we'll be able to make a decision to accelerate our return to in-person learning above and beyond what we have in the 4-tier system. So thank you. Again, appreciate everyone's efforts.
Okay, now we'll finally move on to general function, business services. We have 11 items in this section. 2 of them are resolutions, so we'll need to take the resolutions separately. Is there a motion to approve resolution 18.1, accepting the annual reportable fees for the fiscal year 2019-2020?
So moved, Linda Porras.
Okay, by Linda Porras.
Second, Anna Conover.
Seconded by Anna Conover. Is there any discussion on this? Okay, hearing none, this is a roll call vote. So Danica Larson. Tricia Pierce.
Aye.
Wendy Jonathan. Wendy Jonathan.
Aye.
Anna Conover.
Aye.
Linda Porras.
Aye.
And Don Griffith says aye, so that carries 6-0. 18.2 is another resolution authorizing Riverside County Office of Education to transfer funds between accounts on our general obligation bonds. Is there a motion to accept this resolution?
Moved, Anna Conover.
Moved by Anna Conover.
Second, Tricia Pierce.
Discussion on this item? Okay, hearing none, this is also a roll call vote. Danica Larson. Tricia Pierce.
Aye.
Wendy Jonathan.
Are you not hearing me? I'm saying aye.
I'm hearing you complain about it, but I'm not hearing you say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Linda Porras.
Aye.
Anna Conover.
Aye.
And Don Griffith says aye, so that carries 6-0. 18.3 and 18.11 can be taken as a group. We can take them separately or we can pull out. So is there a motion to accept any or all of 18.3 through 18.11?
A motion.
I move that we take it as a group.
Is that Linda?
Yes, Linda Porras.
Okay, Linda Porras moves to take 18.3 through 18.11 as a group. Is there a second?
Second, Anna Conover.
Seconded by Anna Conover. Is there discussion on any of these items? Okay, preferential vote? That you, Danica? Aye. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Carries 6-0. Okay, moving on to number 19. And this is general functions, educational services. We have two items here, 19.1, 19.2. We can take these separately or we can take them as a group.
I make a motion to take 19.1 and 19.2 together, first reading of board policies.
By Tricia Pierce. Is there a second?
Second, Linda Porras.
Seconded by Danica Larson. Okay, is there any discussion on either of these two items?
Yes, with regards to 19.1, I know that it talks about recognition, and I was hoping that we could have in the section where it says the superintendent or designee shall identify other school-sponsored awards which may be given during the graduation exercises. I would like to propose that we have our superintendent recognize the student or students that are number one in the class during the graduation. I don't think that that needs necessarily to be part of the board policy, but because it does say that he has the opportunity to identify sponsored awards.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, hearing.
I think, sorry, this is Anna Conover. I remember discussing this item, and I think the reason we went to this so that we could recognize as many students as possible and not necessarily focus on the top one, since sometimes, things happen, classes are way different, and it's pretty stressful trying to get to be the top student. So that's just my take on this.
Right, you are correct, Anna, that we went to a different system, and I'm not arguing, and I'm not asking to have a salutatorian, top 10, any of that. I'm just saying that number one student, because it's kind of like if you're gonna pick a doctor and you're gonna have brain surgery, are you gonna say, I wanna, any doctor will do, or are you gonna look for that number one doctor? And I think that student that has put out the effort and is number one, I'm not saying that it has to be in the policy, but I'd like to see the superintendent just take a moment to acknowledge that there's a student out there or students that were number one in their class. It's a big accomplishment. And it may be the only time in their life that they're number one in a class. They go on to college, they very well may not be. But I think that it would be nice for the superintendent to acknowledge that, be very brief, but I think that we as educators should be focusing on excellence at a graduation, as well as those students that have worked hard to achieve and get to graduation as well. But to deny just recognizing that number one student, I think it's I think that it's something we as educators should be doing.
I think with the designation of the Latin forms and the summa cum laude and all those, that since it's not going to be a part of this policy anyway, that it could be discussed later, but I think it actually says that those students are at the top of their class, and the fact that one student may be more outstanding than the other by a 0.07, subjective grade from teachers, it's going back to what we had before with the valedictorian and the salutatorian. It's defeating the purpose. I remember in college, when I graduated, you were in that category and you were just honored to be in that category of a range of GPA. But since it's not part of the policy, I think we could discuss it later or whatever.
It's not even a point of, I was just bringing it up because it really is the superintendent that gets to decide whether they'll identify that other student. We identify students for all different reasons. So as I said, we'll be identifying in the past, we identify Ophelia, other things. So again, I just thought it would be nice for number one. It's a lot. My son graduated as salutatorian and my other son graduated in the top 10. That's different than the number one student in the class. It really is. And neither one of my children were number one, but I recognize a student that does that. And we've changed the system entirely. So now they can only get 8 more classes. The whole system has changed anyway. So it's not like you can play the game anymore because we're not allowing them to do that with regards to the way we're doing the grade point average. So that's my belief. If you as a group are saying, no, you don't want to do that, respectfully, I think that it's a sad day in education when we're saying we don't want to recognize true excellence with one student who's achieved that. I mean, I think that's a sad day in education in schools.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
I just want to say one thing, because sometimes, and I've seen it happen, that there isn't just a number one, there can be a tie. There can be more than one that's a number one. So to me, that kind of is a moot point in saying that if there is number one, and then, I feel like we are going back to the way that it was with salutatorian, and I just think that we need to move forward with the way that we have it now. So that's my final decision.
Okay, hearing no further discussion, preferential vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that carries 6-0. Moving on, general function personnel services. We have 9 items, 20.1 to 20.9. Is there a motion to take these individually or as a group?
I make a motion to take 20.1 to 20.5, 20.6 as a group with the fieldwork agreements with the different universities and the universal precautions board policy.
Okay, there's been a motion to accept 20.1 to 20.6 as a group by Tricia Pierce. Is there a second? Seconded by Danica Larson. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Preferential vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
20.1 to 20.6 carries 6-0. Is there a motion to take 20.7, 20.8, or 20.9 individually or as a group?
I move we take them as a group.
Who was that?
The Conover, 20.3 to 20.9. Anna Conover.
Okay, it's been moved by Anna Conover to take 20.7 to 20.9 as a group. Is there a second?
Second, Linda Porras.
Seconded by Linda Porras. Is there any discussion on any one of these 3 items?
I have a comment to make about the working remotely first reading that was brought back. It's 20.8 in the paragraph first of all, out of 1,100 school boards in California, school districts, only 40 schools have gone ahead and done a board policy with this at this time, because most districts have an MOU in place that is stating how we will work with this disaster. School districts have run with forest fire disasters, flooding disasters, and now this pandemic disaster. And we may come, and I see the need for it because there may be other disasters in the future. But what was, I wanted to keep in mind that was what was originally bargained with the teachers and the union was the fact that sometimes these disasters that are long-term, a short-term one, there's a clause in there anyway giving the district the power to enact different changes on an emergency basis. But these long-term ones, I believe that families, including teachers, are impacted by these, and that they need to be able to have the choice rather than the district have the exclusive designation of who gets to work remotely or on-site or whatever the case may be. And especially the language in that one little paragraph, the second paragraph down, that says that this is not grievable or appealable. And so I'm just thinking that either language that would be more in line with what we are doing now for this disaster or pandemic could be more, would be fair to place in here rather than leaving it so clean cut that this would not be a choice for teachers and what would work out with their family situations on a long-term type disaster. That was the only part I could see a problem with.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, preferential vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Okay, that carries 5-1. 20.7 to 20.9. Okay, next, general function, student support services. There are two items, 21.1 and 21.2. Is there a motion to take these as a group or individually?
I move we take 21.1 to 21.2 as a group. Anna Conover.
All right, is there a second?
Second, Danica Larson.
Discussion? Okay, hearing none, preferential vote?
Aye.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, sounds like 6-0. Okay, general function superintendent, 21.1, amend the 2021 Board of Education regular meeting schedule. Is there a motion to approve the amended 2021 meeting schedule?
So moved, Anna
So
Conover.
moved, Linda Porras.
Okay, so it's moved by Anna and seconded by Linda. Is that okay, Linda?
Yes,
Okay.
that's fine.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, preferential vote?
Aye.
In favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
6-0. Consent items, student matters. We have none. Consent items, business services. I didn't add these up. So how many are there? Oh, just 6. 24.1 to 24.6. Is there a motion to take these together or as a group?
I move we take 24.1 to 24.6 business services as a group.
Anna Conover?
Yes.
All right, is there a second?
I second Danica Larson.
Second, any discussion on any of these items? Okay, hearing none, preferential vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that carries 6-0. Okay, consent items, educational services. We have 4 items, 25.1 to 25.4. Is there a motion to take these together or separately?
I move we take 25.1 to 25.4 educational services as a group. Anna Conover.
I second Danica Larson.
On any of these items? Okay, hearing none, preferential vote.
Aye.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Consent items, personnel services, agreement with addiction medicine consultants. Is there a motion to accept this item?
So moved. Anna Conover.
Anna Conover, is there a second?
I second Danica Larson.
Discussion on this item? Okay, hearing none, preferential vote?
Aye.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that carries 6-0. Consent items, student support services. We have a memorandum of understanding with Operation Safe House. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I motion Danica Larson.
So move, Linda Porras. Sorry. Go ahead.
Porras, or Linda Porras? Can't hear him.
Yes.
It's a hybrid. Okay, any discussion on this item? Okay, hearing none, preferential vote?
Aye.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, 6-0. Okay, personnel action certificated, nothing to fill in? Okay, is there, and nobody retired, right? Yeah, I didn't see that. Okay, is there a motion to accept the certificated personnel action 29.1?
So moved. Anna Conover.
Moved by Anna Conover, second it by anybody?
Okay.
Second, Patricia Pierce.
Discussion? Okay, hearing none. This is just board, no preferential vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, personnel actions classified. Nothing to add and nobody retired, right? Okay. Is there a motion to accept the classified personnel items?
So moved. Anna Conover.
Moved by Anna Conover. Is there a second?
Patricia Pierce, second.
Patricia Pierce. Any discussion?
Second, Linda Porras.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That carries 5-0. Suggestions for future agendas that receive at least 3 votes.
I need a call out.
Okay, you must be
Call out closed session.
Oh, okay, let's call off closed session. Mr. Bailey.
Thank you for giving me that opportunity.
All right, appreciate that.
All right, in closed session, and I apologize, Danica, you were not invited to closed session. It is just that. The board took action on several items. I'm going to read out for the public the results of those actions. So first we'll start with closed session agenda item 3.1. In closed session, the board took action to approve the settlement agreement in the amount of $8,615.72 to resolve all claims by an employee number 217997 concerning placement on the salary schedule. This was approved on a motion by Mrs. Porras, seconded by Mrs. Conover. The motion carried 5-0. Second, under closed agenda item 3.2. In closed session, the board took action to dismiss classified employee number 237735, patrol agent, under the progressive disciplinary procedure, and directed staff to provide notice of its decision in accordance with the collective bargaining agreement. This was passed on a motion by Mrs. Jonathan, seconded by Mrs. Pierce. The motion carried 5-0. Next, under closed session agenda 3.2, in closed session, the board considered whether to hear the complaint from an employee number 157819 and voted not to hear the complaint and issue notice to the employee. This motion was passed 4-0 on a motion by Mrs. Jonathan, seconded by Mrs. Porras, with one abstention. Motion passed. And then item 3.3. Tonight in closed session, the board took action to approve general release and settlement agreement SSS number 03/2020-2021. That's 2021. On a motion by Mrs. Conover, seconded by Mrs. Jonathan, and the vote was 5-0. Passed. Item 3.4, closed session, general release and settlement agreement SSS number 04/2020-2021. This item passed on a motion by Mrs. Pierce, seconded by Mrs. Conover. Motion carried 5-0. And lastly, item 3.5, closed session, general release and settlement agreement SSS number 05/2020-2021. This item passed on a motion by Mrs. Conover, seconded by Mrs. Porras. Motion carried 5-0. That concludes my readouts.
Bailey? Suggestions for future agendas that receive at least 3 votes. Danica, would you like to put anything on a future agenda? Okay, Mrs. Pierce.
The one inquiry about the protocol for paraeducator subs, that automatically comes back as a question to be answered next time. I don't have to put it on the agenda, Laura, Mrs. Fisher?
Have to be put on the agenda if you wanted it to be like an information item.
I put it on the agenda item?
Yep. The simple answer is staff will respond in writing.
Okay. And
There's no necessary board action.
it won't be, okay.
Wendy Jonathan.
None.
Linda Porras.
I have none, thank you.
Okay, I have none. So we have announcements. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education is Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021. That's right. The District Education Center in La Quinta, California. Any other announcements, Mr. Bailey, or anyone?
Just a reminder, if the governor's proposal becomes reality, codified in law, that we could potentially meet in a special session prior to the next regularly scheduled board meeting.
Any other announcements? We will not convene the closed session because we finished, so the meeting is adjourned at 9:35.